G'day ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the YouTube channel. How are we all doing on this lovely end of day riding session? It is rather toasty and I don't have any idea what the speed limit on this road is, but I thought I'd give you a little cheeky video on a topic that not many people who go into this will have the experience of coming back out of it, because look, most people who ride a big bike tend to enjoy staying at the big bike. But I thought I'd talk about what's it like swapping from the big bike back to our measly little low-powered bikes here. So the Honda Rebel got 47.5-ish horsepower, and the MT10 has anywhere from upwards of 160 plus. I think his one, he said it had about 170, but that's all I know. But the point being is, and also same deal happened when I rode the R1. What's it like going from 150, 200 horsepower back down to 50-ish? And I tells you what, kids, it's not great. It's not great. Now, the reason I'm making this video is because there are some people who go from the top of the range bikes down to the more mid-range bikes, and that's completely justifiable. Obviously, riding around with a 200 horsepower death machine all the time isn't quite necessary, and then going back towards something like my bike is a little out of the question. But going to the in-between is the one that makes the most sense. So, look, I understand why you could justify such a thing. Let's go this way. I can't see. All I see is sunshine. This may have not been the right decision to come this way. Oh well. But yeah, dude, coming from a higher quality bike than, say, the Honda Rebel, and then coming back to it, you really notice your imperfections in your bike, okay? And the reason I say this is, hopping off the MT10 or the R1 for that matter, the first thing I immediately notice is the brakes are garbage on these cheaper bikes, dude. And I mean that sincerely, they're horrible. Now look, they do the job, but compared to that top of the range stuff, dude, there's nothing that will compare to that. When I press the brakes on the R1 or the MT10, it's literally just like, what do I need to do to actuate the brake enough? It's like this. On the Rebel, it's like that, all right? And if I'm not pressing it that hard, it just means that I'm not stopping. Like, this is the pressure I would stop the MT10 with it. I'm not even bloody remotely starting, whereas I'm going for it to finally get some braking power, you know what I mean? It's not ideal. This is why I use both brakes on my bike quite often, because if I don't, well, then I purely just end up suffering and not stopping in time. And believe you me, not stopping in time on a bike, it can be a uncomfortable experience. Fortunately, I haven't had that issue happen too many times. I have never hit anybody yet, so touch wood that I don't do that. But look, man, the brakes immediately noticeable. It's one of those things that you sort of, once you've experienced good brakes, it's really hard to be satisfied with your own things if they're not. So the Rebel's brakes are kind of subpar, dude. Yeah, but that's what you'd expect. You need bigger brakes on more powerful things. Anyway, next up, acceleration. Duh, obviously there's a difference. On the MT10 and the R1, there's more torque throughout every part of the bike, okay? The engine is double the size and then some, whereas the 471 twin, well, she's just lacking. So every time you're in the rev range of the MT10 or the R1, you do this, and you probably gain like 10 Ks. Look at my speedo, 72. I'm barely gaining, 1 or 2 kilometers. 67. Oh, 67 to 78, mate, in the blink of an eye. 67 to 70, not 78. In the blink of an eye. Whereas if I did that in the MT10, I would have gained 10 or 15 kilometers an hour. So look, once you've experienced the unrestricted full power of the bike versus your little small power thing, nothing is ever going to feel quite so good, because it's true. You're just lacking, man, and you're going to feel that lack of oomph until you upgrade bikes. And that's what makes it dangerous, because once you start riding these high power bikes, you don't really want to go back. Like, even like, say you have like an R7 and you've been riding around, I don't want to be stuck here. Say you have like an R7 or something, you don't really care about your low-end torque, because it's got plenty of it, but even going from an R7 to an R1, the difference is immeasurable. And like an MT09 versus an R7, well, there's a lot of speed difference, dude. And I'm going to get stuck at every set of lights on the way home as well, of course I am. It's just like that was on the way to work this morning, even though it was not the morning, it was the afternoon, but it was the morning for me because I just woke up. But it's really hard to sort of get over that immense power loss, because it's just you notice it too much, and it's kind of depressing, because like you get on your little bike and you start accelerating, you go, mate, I am fanging it in every gear, and I'm moving nowhere. Whereas you get on like the leader bikes and you'll hit your top speed of this bike in first gear almost. It's a little ridiculous, actually. I need to put petrol in you, but not yet. But yeah, acceleration and speed is just something that you're not quite going to nail out of a bike of this size compared to the big bikes. You want to know one thing that changes though, in the positives? Going from the bigger bikes to the smaller bikes is the comfort. The smaller bikes tend to be more comfortable. Now, in the case of the MT10 and this, I wouldn't say the MT10 is less comfortable, but it's not more comfortable, you know what I mean? Whereas the R1 versus like a learner bike, obviously the R1 is going to be the less comfortable machine out of the two because it's a racing bike versus a learner bike. But typically the comfort is much higher on the smaller bikes because they're made for more commuting, more relaxed riding. The positions are more upright. The seats are not as ridiculously angled towards the front, like, you know what I mean? Like, let's say an R7 is probably the most uncomfortable beginner bike, but besides that, most of your learner bikes are all pretty comfortable. Like, look at an R3, you're pretty upright. You're not quite, you're more up like this, and it's like that for a reason. Oh, I just got hit by a bee, my brother in Christ. There was a bee on my shoulder. That was a bit weird. Ow. Sorry, car behind me that's confused as to what's happening. Don't get hit with bees too often when I'm riding the bikes. I do know my boss that I used to work for got a wasp in his helmet once, and it went about as good as you'd expect it to. Man got stung a few times. Ugh, that kind of done hurt my elbow flicking it that much. Oh man. One thing that you do notice though, going from the bigger bikes to the smaller ones again, is the quality. Alright, quality is obviously going to be different, but look, almost full throttle that just to get that to go that fast. When you have the premium flagship bikes versus your bikes like this, obviously the quality is going to be substantially different. The Honda Rebel compared to a CBR Triple R is night and day. Honda Rebel is bargain bin stuff, man. The radiator doesn't quite match the lines of the bike, etc. like that. The suspension's not the best. Whereas you get on something like the R1 or the CBR 1000 Triple R, obviously everything is better. I'd take the R1 over CBR though, but mainly for prices. In Australia, the CBR Triple R is $55,000 and an R1's like 27, so yeah, maybe not, hey? So, TFT displays, love them or hate them, they're still better on the flagship bike. Suspension's better, the seats are better, the levers are better, the quality of the materials used is typically better, the paint jobs can be better, they're not always better. I know that like the Panigale 899s don't have a clear coat apparently on their red colours, little plain up there. So typically the quality is a substantial difference, and you're paying 30 grand as opposed to $10,000 or something, you damn well expect there to be a quality difference. But it's just, you don't really notice the quality difference, because obviously if you're not riding all these bikes all the time, you just get used to it. Like the Honda Rebel, I'm used to all the features and I'm not disappointed with it. The buttons feel nice, the dash is fine, there's no tacho, but let's be honest, how often are you looking at your tacho whilst you're riding? And don't lie to me, you're not really looking when to shift. You know when to shift, you ride your bike, you know when you're shifting, so you don't have all that stuff. But guess what, I'm quite happy with it, dude. Everything that the bike's done for me, I'm happy. But when you ride something a bit more up there, you look at that fancy TFT, you use those controls, though the Yamaha controls are a bit cheap feeling, I must say, but some of the other brands definitely have better ones. Ducati's controls apparently feel really nice from what I've heard from people, but little things, man, little things. Also, the tyre sizes are bigger, the way that the bikes handle are different, steering dampeners become a bit more common. Learner bikes do not come with steering dampers because you just simply do not need them on the learner bikes, but everything, it's like going from a supercar down to your daily driver. Like, obviously they're nowhere near as good, but they still do the job, you know what I mean? So if there's anything to take away from today's video, the main difference, it can be lumped into one thing, and it truly is, it's just quality. Even the Rebel 1100 versus this one, there's a big difference. If you had the choice, obviously I'd take the 1100 now, but I couldn't, because in Australia, you can't have a big bike as your first bike. You gotta have the bloody Lambs bikes, so it's nothing more than a 660, but 600cc's are also off limits because they make too much power, so they have to be restricted. Like the RS660 I think makes like 37.5 kilowatts on the Lambs version. It's ridiculous, but oh well. Quality. But ladies and gentlemen, that is all I have time for. Let me know if you've done that switch like I did, but take it easy, keep it cheesy, and ride safe, and be well. Peace, bye!